Well, good afternoon. I've literally just rolled in the car park and it's tipping down with rain all of a sudden. So I'm going to finish this coffee, don the wet weather gear and get the bivvy up. Welcome to the Journeyman's Tales. Good evening and welcome back to the Oxford Syndicate. Arrived midday and it absolutely tipped down. So I went for a wander, found the swim. As it happens, I'm in the same swim I was in last time. The weed has come up quite a bit. I mean, what was subsurface is now on the surface, but I tested it in the rain, that it's still quite clear out there at the bottom of the island shelf. So I spawned out a load of bait whilst it was pouring with rain, and then I waited for it to dry up before I started putting the bivvy up, etc, etc, etc. So it's calmed down nicely. We've got a lovely southwesterly wind blowing, which is quite strong at times, which is perfect conditions as far as I'm concerned. All the rods are out and doing something a bit different this trip. We're going nuts. So what I've spawned out is a load of hemp with some crushed peanuts mixed in with it, and then a few spalms of tiger nuts over the top, well spread out. And that's what I'm fishing on, all three rods. For this trip is going to be tiger nuts, and more tiger nuts. I haven't brought any boilies with me, so there's going to be no deviating from the task. It either works or it doesn't. But I had one on tiger nut last trip, and the fish I lost was also on tiger nut. So I'm just hoping this time we'll get a few during the day or in the evening, as opposed to just in the night. But if they just come in the night, I'll be more than happy. Fish at any time is good, really. So that's the plan. I'll show you a bit more in detail what I'm doing rig-wise tomorrow. In the meantime, it's my tea time. Hopefully the fish will get in amongst it as well. Not my tea, their tea. Well, unfortunately, that was a very quiet night. The conditions were absolutely perfect, really. It did calm down a bit, but it was warm. There was a little bit of bubbling going on out there, but there was bubbling going on out there last time I was in this swim. So I don't think it's actually carp. Anyway, nothing came through overnight like the last trip. It is drizzling again this morning, which is unscheduled. And as soon as it does dry up, I'll let you know about the rigs I'm using and the bait I'm using. Not that it's working tremendously well at the moment. Now, as I said, for this particular trip, I'm going nuts. So I'm fishing tiger nuts over a big bed of hemp, which has also got some crushed peanuts in the mix. Now, when I fish nuts, I always add a little bit of buoyancy to the nut. Not necessarily to turn it into a wafter, but to add a bit of buoyancy there to negate the weight of the hook. Now, this was shown to me many years ago by a very experienced carp angler when I was setting out on this rocky road of carp fishing. And back in those days, I used to use a small burring tool to hollow out the inside of the tiger nut, and then we'd fill it full of chopped up cork from a wine bottle, basically. But these days you haven't got to do that. You can simply buy 6mm cork dowels and a 6mm drill, preferably with a point on the end to stop that drill from slipping while you're drilling. To start, you can join 2 or more smaller nuts together by carefully drilling and inserting a small piece of cork. Go slowly so you don't split the nut. If you want to join 3 or more together, simply drill straight through the middle of some of the nuts. To do a single nut, I like to start by cutting a flat on one end to help start the drill off. Again, go slowly until you've gone almost through the nut. Once done, insert the dowel and then cut it to length. Then it's just a case of attaching to a rig of your choice. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know my favourite rigs. I tend to use a hair stop and carefully blob it rather than just blobbing it on its own. A very popular rig is also the slip D rig. Many years ago, I used to soak and boil peanuts a great deal. At the time, I would remove the skin if it hadn't already come off in the boiling process and insert some 1mm thick polystyrene sheet that was used for home insulation. Today, I'd cut some thin strips of foam with a craft knife. If you're not confident in using a craft knife, be very, very careful. That's the end of the safety message. If necessary, open the gap in the 2 halves of the nut, but try not to break where it's joined. I then insert a small piece of foam and trim to size. Remember, you're not trying to make a pop-up, you're just trying to negate the weight of the hook. Then, as before, it's just a case of mounting it on a rig of your choice. I'm going to throttle that bloody goose. Well, back in the day when I was using lots of peanuts, I used to add some flavour to the water when I was pre-soaking them prior to boiling. And the flavour of the day was Rod Hutchinson's maple cream. Now, I still think that's available in some form. But tiger nuts, I tended not to put any flavour with, just a couple of drops of betolin with them. And that's what I'm using at the moment. There we go. Semi-wafter tiger nut. Well, the day is fast racing away. It's the highlight of the daytime, really. Absolutely nothing's happened, apart apart from rain, rain and more rain, none of which was forecast when I left the house on Monday. But either way, the falling barometer tells me that they should be getting their heads down and feeding, but they're obviously not. Maybe they're feeding somewhere else. But I put another dozen spoms out, refreshed the baits. I'm having my tea. They're plainly on a diet out there. Hopefully something might happen in the night. If it does, I'll get back to you. If not, I'll see you in the morning. It's come out of nowhere. And it's kiting straight into the bank. It's got a load of weed on him. Oh, this doesn't look good. You're right if we can get it to kite outwards. Oh, it's going out. Let's count him back in again. Man. Gosh. What, you joking, man? Come on, you're making me nervous. Oh, thank you, thank you. Here we are, 7 o'clock. The right hand rod's roared off. There's a lot more weed out there on the peripheries than I thought. Got really tangled up in it at one point, and there is tiger nuts aplenty in the sling. So it's obviously been on the muncher a bit. 24 pounds and I don't know, some ounces. Relieved and happy. Fantastic. And it's still pouring with rain, as you can probably see. Very pleased indeed. Bordering on going nuts. Right, let's get her back. And look who's come to join the party. Well, good morning. What a bit of a strange night that was. I mean, eventually the rain stopped about, was 11, quarter to 12, something like that. I dropped off for a bit, woke up, and there was a huge, great moon out there. The temperature had plummeted. But sun's coming up behind me. It should be dry now for the rest of the trip, fingers crossed. But no more fish to report, unfortunately. I've spoken to a couple of people via Facebook, and in the words of the great Ian Russell, it's fishing a bit sticky. But at least I've had one, which is never enough, obviously. But if it is fishing sticky for everybody, then one's a good starting point. Hopefully, something will turn up today. We've got today and one more night left. So I'll just repeat what I did yesterday, leave it till sort of midday, put another dozen spoms out, and keep fingers crossed that something turns up again. But that fish that I had yesterday was really on the munch. There was quite a lot of tiger nut in the sling, so they're obviously liking it, or obviously he was liking it. Let's hope a few more of Eden turn up. Ooh, the weed is terrible out there. Damn, it's absolutely solid. Can't feel anything moving at all, actually. Oh, it's kicking. Yeah, it's kicking. Goodness me. Oh, it's just kited right in. Thank you. Goodness me, what a fight. This weed's not helping at all. It was dropped down a bit now. It's not that big, but enough kicking up a stink. And it hasn't stopped fighting, this one. Right through the weed beds, off to my right. Got him towards the net, rolled on the net, and we're off again for round 3 and 4. 20 pound, 12 ounces. I remembered the ounces this time. That's the best fight I've had for a long time. Really went for it. Happy times indeed. Oh. All right, baby, all right. Look, got a couple of sores on this side. I think I'm gonna put a bit of treatment on her. All right, baby, all right. Yeah, got a couple of sores on this side. I have to give those a bit of treatment before she goes back. Wonderful. Happy times. More or less bang on midday, so right hand rod again. They're obviously coming out of that weed on the right hand side of the swim, and it's the right hand rod, as I said, just after midday, 27 pounds and 8 ounces, and she's a pearler, absolute pearler. Warming up a treat now. Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Here we go. And we've got a load of hemp and crushed nut in the sling. Excellent. Right, she's going back. I'm going to get some more. Love it. Well, it's now coming into mid-afternoon on Wednesday. I've delayed putting in the sort of early afternoon spot because I had that fish. But after I had the fish, I put a spread of nuts out using the catapult, so you won't get a clump of them. They were being spread around the swim. I've left that for a couple of hours, nothing's happened, so I've now put out 10 bombs maybe, mainly hemp, a little bit of nut, but mainly hemp. And that's the RAF again. Yeah, so it's all been on the right hand rod. I'm convinced they're just coming out of that weed, which is quite thick. On the right hand side of the swim, they must be coming out of that weed, visiting the baited area. Obviously not in numbers, otherwise you pick up a few more maybe. But I suspect they're just coming out in ones or twos maybe, having a munch and then going back in the weed. Fingers crossed they keep munching. But it's proved worthwhile going on to the nuts. And I have to do something different every now and again, otherwise I get bored doing the same old thing. I'm sure if I'd have stuck to winning ways over the years, I'd probably caught a lot more fish, but it's not really me to do that. I like to change it up every now and again, and it's nice to succeed with the change every now and again as well. Makes it all worthwhile for me. Anyway, I'm going to have this, and hopefully in a couple of hours before it gets dark, it'll kick off again. Now, you know I mentioned that was the RAF flying over. Well, that was one of my boys up there. Now, you don't get footage like that every day of the week. Well, unfortunately, the unforecast rain is back again. I'm in the bivvy cooking, I'm out the bivvy cooking, I'm in, I'm out. Got a small respite at the moment, so I'm going to sit out here. Now, the last time I spoke to you, about 20 minutes after I put everything away, the right-hand rod went off again and heading straight into that weed. Now, I had to put a fair bit of force on it. But the upshot was I lost it right in the net. Now, I could keep that to myself, but if the footage comes out, you can share in my disappointment as well. But it just got echoes of the last trip. I mean, I had 3 fish and then I lost the 4th one and then came home. So I'm really hoping that I'm not going to end that trip losing that fish. I mean, it was literally right by the net. I could see the whites of his eyes, if that's possible, with the carp, and the hook pulled. But I've got to give it quite a bit of bullying to try and keep it away from the weeds, and then it tries to kite either to my right underneath a tree or to my left into the reeds. But anyway, it wasn't to be. It wasn't massive, I tell myself that. But I've put another 4 or 5 spombs out now. I'm going to sit down and have this and a cup of coffee, and hopefully it'll kick off again before it gets dark. Well, it was another quiet night, but sadly, the early hours of the morning, I lost another one. You tell me to keep it real. I hope you're feeling my pain. Fortunately, it was too dark to do any filming, so there's no evidence of it. Just my confession. On a more amusing, ironic note, if you remember from the last video, I was going to do a review on the thermal cell I used to keep the mosquitoes and gnats and all the rest of it out of my bivvy. But it was too cold to use it because there weren't any around last trip. But I did actually put it on the last night because a few was buzzing around the place. And I got bitten on my right cheek. I don't know if you noticed in the video, it was beginning to slowly redden up, but after the 3-hour drive home it was quite swollen. And after talking to the doctor on the phone, he insisted that I go in and have some check-up done on it because he was a bit concerned it was going to go near the sinus, and the bottom was I ended up on antibiotics. So I shan't be reviewing the thermal cell for a bit. Other than that, I'm going to start slowly packing away and hope something happens between now and me getting the bivvy down and the rest of it. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this journeyman's tale, and I'll catch you all again soon. Cheers for now.